New on Curiosity Stream. How do you connect a 16th century potato to limitless energy production? Could Napoleon's toothpick have a direct link to a machine that predicts the future? And how can a 1700s conch shell chart a course to humans connecting their brains to the internet? James Burke's visionary series Connections returns for a new generation. Experience all new Connections. With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at curiositystream.com. New on Curiosity Stream.
I'm James Burke. I'm going to take you on a journey through time.
James Burke's visionary series returns, reimagined for our time.
Now, this is all uncharted territory.
The Washington Post hails Burke as one of the most intriguing minds in the Western world. The New York Times raves he careens from one great moment in history to another.
Where do we want to go from here?
Experience all new Connections.
So what's the next connection?
With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at curiositystream.com.
The pop culture field, yore, matey. It do
Not
be
this
the
again.
Oh,
Nope.
okay.
I'm stopping
All
it
right,
before
okay.
it starts.
What? They're on the ocean. They fight. I don't know what more you want from me, man.
Oh man, this is the third time. I'm here to set the record straight. I thought it would have been acceptable if you started off with like skull or something like that. Nah, I mean, to be honest, you are pretty right. They are a seafaring people, and everyone's probably so confused about what's going on right now. Why don't you tell them, Israel? Minus the pirate accent.
Minus the pirate accent, folks. You are here, folks. The Pop Culture Field Manual podcast. We are back with another amazing episode. Cameron and I are here to talk about Vikings, folks.
Yes.
They have left an indelible mark.
That was good.
On pop culture, folks. I try to think of try to think of things that we do in pop culture, like that we make movies about, video games about, that are as far removed from the actual experience of living this thing out as possible. Yeah. I think Vikings probably are in the top category because it probably would have sucked to be a Viking. Like, we're talking on hygiene alone. Like, I don't want to be a Viking, man. I want to be...
You don't shower. It's cold all the time.
Yeah.
You're like, everyone stinks. Like, drink mead.
Yeah, the whole point of your life is, like, to die in battle, right? That's the whole thing, right?
Beautiful.
You believe
Totally
Valhalla's coming. You got to die in battle. You don't want to get to old age. Like, we think, like, living a long life is, like, 80 years old, 90 years old. But back in that day, if you believe what they believe, you're like, no, Odin wants to see me die in battle,
Sure. I mean, the Vikings, let's be honest, Viking culture, amazing. To be a Viking, miserably terrible. Just because, think about, they were seafaring people. And before I go into it, I might as well just explain what a Viking is. Because sometimes,
we have a dictionary definition,
Yeah, and by dictionary, the Wikipedia definition that I pulled, that is super resourceful and obviously extremely accurate. So Vikings is a modern-day name given to seafaring people originally from Scandinavia, which is present-day Denmark, Norway, Sweden, who from the late 8th to the late 11th centuries raided, pirated, traded, and settled through parts of Europe. They also voyaged as far as the Mediterranean, North Africa, Volga, Bulgaria, the Middle East, and North America. Which honestly I didn't know. In some countries, they raided and settled, and this period is popularly known as the Viking Age, and the term Viking also commonly includes the inhabitants of the Scandinavian homelands as a collective whole. The Vikings had a profound impact in the early medieval history of Scandinavia, the British Isles, France, Estonia, and Kievan Rus. So pretty much whenever you're saying Viking, you're talking about people from Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Scandinavia.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're talking boats, we're talking Odin, Freya, the Norse mythology.
Yeah, pagans.
Raiding, pillaging,
Ragnar warrior culture. Yeah, Ragnar Lothbrok. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we will talk about here soon.
Yeah, exactly. And one that's actually, when you try to find I think with some of the problems with trying to find Viking culture or lore with which to make pop culture, video games, movies, etc. I think a lot of it is lost, or there are not a lot of records. Maybe because there's like a YouTube video guy. I mentioned him when we talk about God of War, but he's like Jackson Crawford. He does a lot of Viking mythology stuff, and he talks about God of War and the God of War, the Norse mythology and stuff. A lot of times, handed down, lost to the centuries, oral tradition, right? Not writing things down. That means that stuff has just been lost in time. So we have these ideas about Vikings that are popular, but maybe they're not so historically accurate. So it's kind of an interesting point to make.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing about me, if I had to align with any existing, like any race of people that existed, I would probably align with the Vikings. Their culture is something that jazzes me up. And if I had to pick obviously a religion nowadays, I would probably pick Norse pagan, just because it is filled with stories. And who else doesn't want to die in battle? It might just be me, but but I think, it's a highly respectable warrior culture. And, coming from our backgrounds, warrior culture is something that is just hammered into your head. And you see fierce warriors in every single race of people, but I just loved how centered Viking culture was on conflict and armed conflict and being a soldier and dying honorably with your sword and your shield in your hand. And just from what you mentioned, like, that might be totally obscure too. It might have not been that extreme as we see in pop culture, but honestly, I'm glad it is, because it's a very cool thing, and we've gotten a lot of really cool pieces of pop culture from that belief. And one of them is, we've talked about it before, and I'm not going to stop talking about it, is the Northman.
Yeah, the Northman. We couldn't talk about Vikings in pop culture without talking about the Northman. One thing I will say is I was happy to find out. I did a little bit of research, and apparently it did actually do pretty well overall financially. Okay, it just didn't do very well in the box office. I think on video on demand later on it did turn a profit, which I'm happy to hear, because I want Robert Eggers to make more movies. I want him to make more movies like this. This movie was so well put together and so entertaining.
It was epic. Talk about an epic. That was an
epic saga. Yep. About a man destined for Valhalla.
Yes, and he gets there. He definitely goes there.
Spoilers, he makes it.
Spoilers, he makes it. He makes the trip. But yeah, that's an amazing one. And not just one that's like super ingrained in reality. Like, obviously, there's a lot of belief in Norse paganism that, like, you have Valkyries, which are, angel warriors of Valhalla that come down and take your, body off the battlefield and bring you to the gates and the drinking halls, and you get to, share a glass with Odin, and that's pretty much your entire purpose for life. And, like, there's elements of that, and the whole mystique and magic type of, storytelling was in the Northman. But other than that, like, all the other things are super, ingrained in reality. But I liked the fact that he had like that magical aid from like his god, and it just gave like his character more purpose, and just like the Viking culture, like it made it more real.
Odin
and like
was
why
definitely on his side,
yeah, totally. And it, like, you see, even reading the tales back there. I have very few audiobooks. I have very few because I don't read a lot, or listen. At least that's what my fiance says. But one of the few audiobooks that I do enjoy really listening to is, I have an entire one on Norse mythology, and like I'll put it on and listen, because the tales are just they're just so cool. Like, I'm a big story guy, especially on previous episodes, especially on our Patreon, which, if you're listening to the free version of this, if you want the full podcasts as well as exclusive monthly podcasts, go ahead and subscribe to our Patreon. Check that out, folks. We'd really appreciate it. But I know I think the last episode we did, I'm a freaking huge fan of fantasy. Like, Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons, Game of Thrones, like anything where you have sword and shield, like steel on steel.
Yeah.
I'm a real big fan of. And this movie totally was like what's a good word? Is that a good word?
Exuded or...
Exemplification. This movie exemplified everything about fantasy and reality of the Vikings that I absolutely love. So and those stories that the Norse just come up with is freaking crazy.
Yeah, great. And also based on a Norse legend or saga that became the precursor story idea for Hamlet, the Shakespeare play.
Yeah.
Same kind of
Interesting.
story. A young man, his father gets murdered by his brother. Brother takes over the kingdom and takes his mom, and then he vows.
Oh,
revenge. Yeah. Kind
That
of
makes sense.
Yeah, the basic framework, but obviously a lot more awesome and more bloodshed.
Yeah, a lot. This is like the most toxic masculinity movie in the world, and I freaking love it.
No, I think that we talk about what is it about Viking culture that maybe appeals specifically to men, and it's that, like you were saying, that warrior culture, the aggression, the kind of pointed aggression towards a greater goal, towards fighting honorably or fighting to defend your land, or maybe even like in the vengeance kind of way, but like he does it in such a way that it's not like straight up like he goes and walks up to the dude and fights him. It's he tries to like break down his whole life too. Like he's like plots with Anna Taylor-Joy's character to like hit him from all sides, from the psychological and the spiritual, and and then they finally do have that epic. I mean, what could be more epic than a one-on-one battle inside a volcano?
Yeah, totally. Closest you can get to hell.
Yep.
Yeah.
The gates of hell.
Another thing about, I think what appeals to guys about this movie is just being fucking tough. You know?
Yeah.
It's like nowadays, like being tough is kind of looked down upon in a way because, like, it's toxic and you want to have like emotions and feeling. But in my opinion, man, there will always be a necessity for tough individuals. Just because,
to persevere.
The ability to get through anything, whether it's not only physically, but you can be mentally tough. We talk about it all the time in the military.
Yep.
But that culture is just ingrained in being tough. It doesn't matter. Being tough in battle, being tough at home, just being tough against the environment that these Vikings had to face, getting through winter, starving, being dehydrated, but still continuing to do what needs to be done. It's just, you're literally just being tough, you know?
Yeah, perseverance and the kind of inner strength that I think all of us aspire or should aspire to have, maybe defining it differently than, like you say, like, not that he's devoid of emotion in the movie or anything like that, but it's emotion under control. Like he's guided by principles rather than guided by, by whatever emotion is in the moment or his feelings. Because at the, first of all, he kind of gets off the track. He becomes a berserker in the land of Russ. Yeah. And then he's reminded by Bjork that he needs to get back on track. He's like, you have a vengeance to you. And then at the end, when he could get away with Anna Taylor-Joy, they have 2 kids coming. He's going to have a bloodline that's going to continue, and his one of his daughter's going to be a queen. And but he's like, I have to. It's my destiny. I have to. I'm not going to fight it, And he gives it up, and that takes a lot of strength of character,
Or does, to leave his family behind in order to finish his sole purpose.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like he's so small, but big in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, he becomes, it's I think it's probably a storytelling thing or maybe a human nature thing that he becomes greater than just an individual. Because he embodies these ideas, right? We see him live them out, and then it like calls to something in us too, where we, I struggle with this like personally on a personal level, is like being a man of character and doing the right thing no matter what, or doing the right thing no matter how painful it's going to be, or no matter how much it hurts. But, I think that's kind of a basic human thing and storytelling thing, where when we see people that live like he does in the movie, it's like, oh, we kind of get it, because it's like, it's a great call. It's a call to kind of greatness,
You wouldn't understand, man. You wouldn't get it. You weren't even fucking there.
You didn't kill babies.
Yeah.
You never killed babies. You were never Nom.
Yeah, you don't even know what it was like. But The Northman, if you haven't seen it already, we will continue to pound it in your brain, because it is honestly my favorite movie of, 2022, right? That came out?
Yeah, it came out last year, yeah. Really.
Yeah, favorite movie of that year.
Really, really good. Yeah. I'd have to go back and review. I think The Batman came out last year, but no, it's definitely top 5.
Absolutely. Well, I know you put a lot of video games on here, and I think video games almost... Actually, yeah, I'm gonna say video games do a better job of like Viking culture than just movies do, because I mean, you got a couple really good ones on here.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about the one you're playing currently?
The one I'm playing currently, well, I'm playing currently God of War Ragnarok, right? I'm only a couple hours into it, but I guess the one I can talk more definitively on would be the original God of War reboot that came out in, 2018, 2019, where basically, Kratos, who's the Greek warrior, the Spartan warrior who fights and basically kills all of the Greek gods, and then kind of disappears into the ether. He shows up in the Norse mythology land, right? I think it's a great way to like jump into that. It's actually, now here's the thing about this one though. It's really great story, father and son story. He's got a kid. They're trying to spread his wife's ashes. They fight not a lot of gods, but they encounter a lot of mythological figures like the world serpent and
Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
The guy with the get his head chopped off who knows everything.
Yeah, the head
guy
that knows.
And then
that
the
just
sons
keeps
of
on his
Thor.
waist.
Yeah, and Balder.
Yeah.
But the thing about this one is, if you watch Jackson Crawford's commentary on the original God of War reboot, there's a lot of stuff that they don't quite get. Like Balder in Norse mythology is supposed to be the greatest of the gods. He's the son of Thor, and he can't be hurt. Which they get in the game because his mom gives him a blessing, and he can't be hurt by anything. But he's not supposed to be he's not like a bad guy. In this one, they make him kind of like the bitter son who hates his mom because she gives him this invulnerability, but then he can't feel anything, and so he's resentful, embittered against her stuff. But so they kind of play fast and loose a little bit with, which I guess you kind of have to if you want to weave your own story, which I guess maybe that's kind of one of the cool things about Greek mythology or any kind of mythological realm or era is you kind of take it and you put your own spin on it,
Yeah.
But it's the God of War itself is just a great game, open world adventure RPG where Kratos and his son, Atreus are walking, going through trying to complete this task, and then they find out that his mom was a giant, and they have all the different realms that they can go to, Valheim, Jotunheim, Helheim, which actually that's one of the things they can talk about the tree of life that kind of connects everything. Jackson Crawford talks about how it's not necessarily like an actual tree. It's more like an idea or something. It's not a physical structure. You know what I mean? So it's just cool to see where the mythology is accurate and where it's not, and how the makers of the game of God of War chose to either be accurate on something, or to kind of we're going to sort of take the general idea and then we're going to kind of do our own thing.
We're going to play with it.
Yeah. But the strength of God of War, I think probably for me is the father-son story and their relationship. Sure. And then it's set against the backdrop of Norse mythology. And Ragnarok's good so far. I haven't finished it at this point, at the time of this recording, but I look forward to playing through it because the performances are really great. Like I have it on a PS5. Boy, oh boy, the mocap is really good. Like the facial expressions and stuff, you can really see what the characters are going through and what they're thinking, as the story progresses. And I think it's pretty well written too. It's Fimbulwinter, which is kind of like this event that happens before Ragnarok, which is the end of all things in Norse mythology, a great battle. It's just interesting to see how Kratos and Atreus are going to get woven into. Odin shows up, Thor shows up, and he's awesome. He's kind of got a dad bod. He's got this huge.
Yeah, I saw Thor is just total dad bodded up, huge belly. Instead of being like what we see Liam All right,
Yeah.
Hemsworth,
Yeah,
Chris Hemsworth,
Yeah.
yeah, and he's all jacked and everything. He's like straight dad bod,
Yeah,
like
he's
power
more
lifter.
fat Thor from
Yeah.
Endgame, but he's no joke, and the actor they got to play Odin is a good one. He's been around for like a long time. But yeah, really cool. I love Norse mythology just generally. Richard Schiff, yeah, Richard Schiff plays Odin, and so it's just fun to like just play in that world. Like I said, I wouldn't want to
Sure.
be a Viking, but I'll play, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'll play all those games,
Sure.
all day long. Just so much fun.
Yeah, living vicariously through video game characters. Because I'm a huge mythology buff too, dude. Like, my favorite subject in high school was Greek mythology. That was like, I passed that with flying colors. Only time I'd actually read was for Greek mythology.
Wow, that's saying something.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's saying a lot. And there's no exception for Norse mythology on there. Because it seems like no matter what culture it is, these stories have a lot of similarities. And they all have like the same meanings or the same morals to them, but just different characters wound up. But if you listen to some crazy if you listen to some crazy Norse mythology, it's like how the world started. It was like an ice giant that was killed, and like that's how the land was made, and just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man. It's also cool listening to like some of the stories of like, because there's so many stories within Norse mythology, and it's just like, it's almost hard to name them off the top of my head because there's just so many that mean so many different things. And like Loki is a motherfucker. Like that is like one of the biggest themes is like nobody liked Loki because he was such a trickster and nobody trusts him. But I mean, he was the god of mischief.
Yep.
So yeah, he's a son of a bitch.
It's weird. It's weird in the God of War series. Spoilers, folks, for those that haven't played God of War, the reboot, the original reboot. You find out that Atreus's like giant name, or his other name that his mom gave him secretly, was Loki. So
really?
Atreus in the games is Loki, and he's like, well, who's that? Who am I? What am I supposed to do? So it's like, he's definitely not a trickster or whatever. He's very intelligent, and he obviously has an affinity for spells and languages in the game, which makes him very intelligent in that realm. But what are they going to do with Atreus as a character in Ragnarok? I haven't played it yet, but I'm interested in seeing why they chose to name him Loki.
Yeah, dude. Well, once you get there, let me know. I'm very, very intrigued. But yeah, dude, there's another game here that you've talked about a lot.
Yeah, it had to be included. If we were going to talk about Norse mythology or Vikings, it would have to be Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Whenever anybody asks me, like, what's your favorite game ever? This is it. It's always this one's like right at the top of the list. But just because it's such a personal and well told like personal journey for this woman Senua. She's not a Viking, but she's a Pict, or she's a Pictish warrior. Pict.
Is it Pike? Is it a Pike?
I think Pict because I've heard of them. I think they were people that lived in like northern England, northern mainland England kind of areas. But her village is attacked by Vikings, and then her lover is killed. So she decides to go on this journey to bring his soul out of Helheim, which is Viking hell. So she has the head, which they believe was the seat of the soul. The soul was in the head. So she takes his head. She has it on her hip, a la Kratos. And she decides to go into hell. The thing about her is that she deals with a severe psychosis, and the game developers researched all that, and just gave it. It's really sad. I kind of like very empathetic, I guess, maybe to her at least, because I really felt for her story. If you haven't played Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, I'd recommend playing it with headphones on, really good headphones, because she has voices in her head, and they all come from different directions. So if you play it with a good set of headphones, it really makes it a more immersive experience. And she has to fight, different gods like Valravn and Soot, and then Hela at the end is kind of like the main baddie, who ends up kind of, spoilers, being like kind of a representation of her father, who is a very abusive figure in her past, because nobody knew like what psychosis was back then. They just thought she was possessed by demons. So just really cool how it's just a personal journey, but like you see it through her eyes. So she thinks she's fighting all these dead Viking warriors and these all these Norse gods. So
the character design is crazy in it too. I'm looking at pictures at some of the monsters and stuff you fight, and Hela is creepy as shit.
Yeah, the design layout of the realms that she goes to. The girl who plays her, it was actually, I think she was just a producer at the game studio, and they had her do some concept work for like the lead up to actually making the game. And I think she did such a good job. They just asked her like, do you just want to do it, like. So now she is Hela, or no, she's Senua rather, and they got a sequel coming up. At the time of this recording, sequel hasn't come out yet, but it's going to be Hellblade: Senua's Saga. I'm really looking forward to playing that. I'm going to set some time aside, turn all the lights off, put my headphones on, and really just immerse myself in that experience. So cool, man. Hellblade. So awesome.
Well, cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's sick. Yeah, I'm excited for you to play that game. I know you mentioned it before, but yeah, video games do a really good job, dude, of the Viking culture. But there's also, I think one of the most famous pieces of pop culture that came out and has been around for a long time and has a lot of seasons is Vikings in general.
Yeah.
So
Vikings.
Ragnar Lothbrok, man, that's where I learned what a blood eagle was. I mean, that was
yeah, man.
That's like so much happens in that TV series, and it does a really good job because it's through History Channel, right?
Yeah, History Channel. Funny, History Channel didn't used to be into narrative forms of shows, but I think, man, I want to say Viking was one of the first ones they ever came up with.
I think it was too, because usually they're like a documentary series or like or pretty much commentary on like a specific event or something. But this was like the first one that I think they did that was an actual like written TV series. But I think they did an absolutely amazing job. Like Ragnar Lothbrok as a character, I love. One of my favorite things throughout the entire series is that he gets more and more head tattoos, if you start noticing.
Oh, I don't think I ever picked up on that.
You never? Yeah, he starts getting more and more head tattoos through it. I'm pretty sure, unless I just was super unobservant. But, like, I wonder what the significance of, like, tattoos were in Viking culture. Because, when you look at other warrior cultures, like, for example, the Mari tribe, like facial tattoos were like sacred.
Like new tribe, like Pacific Islander, New Zealand kind of stuff.
Yeah, like New Zealand Mari tribe. Like face tattoos are like extremely like significant and they mean things. But I wonder in Viking culture, because you see like the Celtic like little designs on a lot of the characters' heads and different ones. I wonder if those had any significance. If you guys are big Viking, connoisseurs, send us an email to pcfmpodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to know from y'all instead of just hitting the Google machine and looking it up, but that'd be cool. But yeah, Vikings, a lot of battles, kind of shows where, or kind of highlights how like these pretty much Vikings would, get on a ship and start exploring because just living where they're at wasn't enough. They wanted to see what was out, and then the kind of struggle between Christianity and paganism was like huge between them.
Yeah, he earlier in the earlier seasons, Ragnar picks up that one monk dude, and they kind of become friends.
Yeah, he does. He wants to teach him like all about Christianity. Doesn't he kind of convert over to Christianity?
Well,
little bit.
No, that was kind of like a trick that I loved. I've actually only watched the first 3 seasons. I watched all the way up until Ragnar Lothbrok dies and his sons are introduced, and then I haven't watched his son stuff. But he was an innovator. Like he tried to create new opportunities and come up with new ideas for the Viking culture and like get out there. And that was kind of his special ability or his special characteristic. But it was when they were trying to get into France. Or to
that's
Paris.
Where I fell off was when they took over, when they attacked France. That's the last I saw of Vikings.
They did it twice in his run. Maybe it was season 4 that I got to, but yeah, when he does it, he has the dude baptize him, and everyone's so mad because they're like, "You're a Viking, you can't go and be a Christian." And he gets baptized, and then he's sick, right? And then like everybody, he's dead. Like he dies. So, and then they're like, "Oh, well, he was a Christian. Can we have him be buried in a Christian temple. And so they're like, yeah, put his body in this thing and we'll take his body in ourselves and give him a burial. And so they take him in there, and then he's in the, in the monastery in the middle of Paris or whatever, and he busts out and he's alive. Well, it was all just a trick so that they would take him into their city, and then he has all these other dudes set up.
He
outside.
Trojan horsed them.
Maybe he Trojan horsed them. So that was the coolest. He was my favorite character. And I'm sure that the other, that the later seasons, the actors they got seemed to be cool. And his son, who was his son before he died, continues to be his, one of the sons that.
Hello, Saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
Fargo, the new virtual assistant from Wells Fargo, makes banking faster and easier. Like this.
Fargo, what's my checking account routing number?
And this.
Fargo, turn off my debit card.
And this.
Fargo, what did I spend on groceries last month?
And that's just the beginning. Do you, Fargo? You can in the Wells Fargo mobile app. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/getfargo.
Terms and conditions apply. Your mobile carrier's availability and message and data rates may apply. Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
That, later on, I'm sure it's cool. I kind of fell away from it because he was my favorite character. And then when he dies, I was like, kind of lost interest a little bit. But Travis Fimmel, that actor, did a really good job of I loved all the conflicts that he was involved in. Did you watch? You kind of watched up until about the same point?
Yeah, up until they're kind of building those towers to get into France,
Okay, all right, yeah.
To get over the walls. That's at least where I remember from. But the story of Ragnar Lothbrok has deep ties. It wasn't just a History Channel character. He was apparently either a real guy or was passed. The story of Ragnar Lothbrok was passed down from generation to generation, because there's a lot of him. I'm on history.uk right now, and it's the real Ragnar Lothbrok. So this guy might have been real, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, his sons were real too. I think there's legends of his sons invading England after his death. I don't know if it was historical or just in the show, but when he's captured and they are getting ready to execute him, he says, "Oh, how the piggies squealed when they heard how the old boar died." And that was him foretelling, when his sons found out about him dying, they all got super pissed and were like, "We're going to invade England." And he basically, foretold the doom of that part of England, because his sons came and they just wrecked everybody, and they killed the king. They did a blood eagle on the king that killed Ragnar Lothbrok, and they, and then it's just on, and they're just raping and pillaging all over England. So,
oh man!
I should probably finish the series. You guys let us know if you think it's worth finishing the series. If it gets better or worse. I loved his wife, who's in it. She ends up becoming a powerful character in her own right. A powerful leader. I forget what her name is, but because I don't have the thing up in front of me, but. She was really cool, and she's had a long career. She's always been kind of an action-based kind of actor, the blonde. But really a lot of fun. Vikings, cool series. It went on for I think 7 years, actually. They've got a bunch of seasons. They got a bunch of episodes. There's other Vikings Valhalla and Valhalla Rising, and or there's other shows basically that take place in the Viking era that I haven't really checked out. If you guys think you have a favorite Viking-based TV show, you let us know.
Did you ever play Skyrim?
Never played Skyrim, man. I know it's on the list. I think Chris put it on there.
I put it on there. I played a little bit of it because when it first came out, honestly, I didn't realize that it was one of the Elder Scroll games. It's Elder Scroll Skyrim.
Yeah, it's in that tradition. Yeah, that same vein. Yeah, I didn't know there were Vikings in it. Or there's
I thought it was Viking-ish. I thought it was like Viking-ish.
It takes place in like a snowy, frosted, or like a Viking type land.
Yeah, kind of. I just put it in there because I was hoping you played it and I wanted to pick your brain about it. But since not, we could totally skip it, and that's fine.
Games like this, a lot of games like the open world games where the whole point is that like you're just wandering around doing stuff. Like I got to be careful because like life is short, man. I got a lot to do, and I need a strong story to kind of keep me on the path. Because I'd be playing Skyrim for like years, which I'm sure there are a lot of gamers out there that have just been playing Skyrim.
Still playing it.
Yeah, still playing it.
Yeah, it came out in 2011.
They got mods. They've released a bunch of stuff. So
the only thing I know,
even though
there's a lot of memes that come out of Skyrim.
A lot of memes that come out of Skyrim.
A lot of memes.
A lot of cat people. Ron Perlman's in this.
Is he?
No, I just see.
One of the cats. He's one of the cat monsters.
Ron Perlman does the opening. I think he does the opening narration. Definitely for Fallout 3. Maybe a little bit for Fallout New Vegas. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about 13th Warrior, and then we'll wrap it up here.
All right, man. 13th Warrior is a movie from 1999. It stars Antonio Banderas and a bunch of Nordic actors. But it's based on a Michael Crichton novel. And Michael Crichton, a la Jurassic Park.
Okay.
A bunch of other, really great guy. Died too young, but great writer. A lot of great sci-fi kind of concepts. I think he was famous for in his novels really going in deep into the science of the sci-fi version. But anyway, 13th Warrior takes place back in ye olde Viking times, and he's like an Arabic guy who Antonio Banderas stars as an Arabic guy. But
very. Even though he's Spanish or Mexican?
Yeah, I think he's Spanish. Yeah, but he does a good job. But he gets exiled from his land, and he's traveling around, and he meets in the northern areas these Vikings, and then they get like a message from their land, even further north, that there's this evil attacking them. It's like they say it's a dragon attacking them. They call it the glowworm. And
the glowworm,
the glowworm. And they have this council about what are we going to do, and they have the old lady, the old sage, fortune teller lady comes, and she says 13 men have to go, and so the king, kind of the leader guy, says I'll go, and then all these other guys say I'll go, and they all volunteer. There's 12 of them, and then the lady says stop, everyone, the 13th warrior cannot be a Northman, and everyone kind of looks at Antonio Banderas. He's like, wait, you guys want me to go? Because it's like it's been foretold, And so he goes up there and like he learns their language along the way, and he kind of has to prove himself a little bit because he's not a warrior; he's just some poet, from Arabia. But he gets up there and he gets to know all the characters. All the characters are really they have just a little bit about them, each of them, to make them kind of interesting, and you kind of want to care about him, even though he interacts like mostly with like 2 or 3 main characters, other Vikings. And they find out you think it at first it's like a dragon because they see all this light, like this train of light coming from the forest in the mist of the morning mists. But it's like an ancient tribe of like savages, and they have torches. They're all carrying torches, and so they attack them, and a couple of the dudes die, and then they find out, they we need to go out, we need to track these people down and like kill them where they're at, right? Because they have like a leader. They have 2 leaders. They have a man leader and a female leader. They have a physical core and a spiritual core, and so they go in there and they sneak in and they kill the leader. She's like a witch doctor lady, and they kill her, but then she poisons the leader guy, the king, the kind of noble king that becomes Antonio Banderas' friends, and then they have to escape out of there, and they're going to do one last assault. All the people are coming to get revenge for the death of their one of their leaders, and it's just this epic battle at the end, and Antonio Banderas is fighting, and they finally kill the physical leader, or the physical representation of these savages' strength, and they all run away and they disperse and they're done, and they've won. So it's a cool story, man. It's something that I saw in the theaters a long time ago, back in '99. Big fan of it. It's one of those ones that I could watch over and over again. The story's so well done. I think John McTiernan did it, actually, he directed Die Hard and a bunch of other action movies. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think John McTiernan did it. When it was a good one, man. 13th Warrior, good introduction. I mean, that might have been, I'm trying to think if that was my first introduction to anything Viking related in a concentrated way that I remember. Always kind of, you always hear about it. Like we were talking about, Vikings are kind of, the Viking culture-ish is kind of like everywhere. And, but whether you go to like a themed restaurant or, you see a cartoon with a guy with the horn hat, and then you kind of like start doing more research and like, oh, there was like an actual culture and they kind of lived it a long time ago. But we only what's that?
Oh, go ahead, finish, and then I'll say my thought.
We tend to kind of keep the further away we get from a certain culture, we tend to keep only the most superficial of tropes from that culture.
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, I actually, you know how I always say I'll add a movie to my list every time you tell me? I actually started a list. Like, no shit.
An actual list.
I have an actual list now. Because after Chris was like, oh, you don't actually have a list? And I was like, oh, I should probably actually make a list. So I just put that on my list for real. So it is on the list now.
It's a good one. It deserves to be on the list because I really think you'll enjoy it. It's got a full story, great characters, well done. It's kind of an all-around just a good film.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And you've mentioned it before, so I know it's a good one. Honorable mention, though, we don't really pay attention to music all too often, especially even though it falls under the pop culture thing. But a band that I've actually seen in concert, and they are a Viking metal band. I love them. Yeah, they're a Viking metal band, and I absolutely love these dudes. And if you like metal music but you don't listen to Viking metal, check out the band Amon Amarth. They are Amon Amarth, AMON AMARTH, Amon Amarth. They are freaking heavy and awesome, and they're just a bunch of Norwegian dudes that are ginormous Viking dudes that all have beards and long hair, and they just play songs about Odin and drinking and fighting and. I saw them in concert in Seattle, and like they bring this giant Viking ship on stage, and like they have one song called Raise Your Horns, and it's like drinking horns, and like they're all like Skål, and they're like chug mead out of the horn.
Dude, that sounds awesome, man. I'm looking them up right now. You know what Amon Amarth means?
What?
Mount Doom.
Mount Doom. That's sick. I never knew that. They're Swedish. They're Swedish. They're not Norwegian.
You know what, man? If you were making band recommendations, there's one band that I can recommend. I've only heard about them recently because if you watch the teaser trailer for Hellblade: Senua's Saga, where she's like singing a song, band that band that she's singing that song from is called. Correct me if I'm wrong. The translation, Heilung. They're an experimental folk music band made up of members of Denmark, Norway, and Germany. And the lead lady always has like her face partially covered, almost like one of the soothsayers.
She has like deer antlers and stuff
on her headdress. Yeah. And they only do like
I've seen that band.
Folk music. Yeah.
I've seen that band before. They're out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Kai Uwe Faust is the
Kai Uwe Faust.
Yeah. So
very cool.
I'm looking forward to playing Hellblade even more now because I dig their songs. I can't dig them too much because honestly, on a personal level, like it's all pagan stuff. So it's like
it's all pagan stuff. Terrible Christian.
I can only like it so much. Yeah, and there's some dudes like in like Norway that are into that stuff. They're like they hate Christians because obviously Christianity sweeps through, and it's not going to tolerate any other religions. It's a very proselytizing religion. So I'm sure there were
a lot of history there.
Yeah, a lot of history there. On a service level, I can appreciate it though.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're Amon Amarth is a great band. Check them out if you want. I think that'll wrap up the this section of the episode. I know we got a fan question, right?
Yeah, we got Bobby Burns sent us an email, and he was asking, when you guys left the military, what habit did you learn during your time in service that was the hardest to break?
This is a deep question. Because some habits are bad. Some habits are bad habits.
I mean, I'd say I'd kept a couple of the good habits I had was just a general the general idea of having situational awareness, like being aware of your surroundings. Like I can't say that I'm as sharp as I used to be, because it's a perishable skill. But that and eating fast. Like I've had to really try to train. Really had to train myself to just slow down.
Yeah, that's one of my big one too, is eating fast. I devour food. My dad eats fast. Like I always tell my dad when growing up, I'm like, you could probably be a professional eater. And like when I got back from the military, he told me, you're fast. He's like, you are a fast eater. So like I've always eaten fast in the military just because, you don't have a lot of time, especially when you're training hard. They're like, you got to eat that and then just get the fuck back to training. Yep. And in Ranger School, you didn't have a lot of time to eat, especially when you were in the DFAC, you had like 3 minutes. And in RASP, I think it was like 3 minutes from the moment you sat down. So like I'm just used to eating fast. Working out is like staying in shape was a big habit that I kept. Like I always didn't matter. If whether I'm in the military or not, I've always held myself to a specific standard with fitness. Like I have to be able to do this many push-ups. I have to be able to run this fast, run a mile this quick. That's always been a standard for me even outside the military. Situational awareness thing is a big thing for me, but it's kind of been like a negative habit for me because I'm like, this is going to get deep, but a lot of the time, actually, I'm too situationally aware to where I'm not paying attention to what's actually going on. If I'm like with someone, that I'm so focused on everything else around me. And like we went to Big Bear the other day and like we sat at a restaurant and like I always love to face, like that's my seat. I always face the exit so I can see who's coming in, who's coming out at all times. And like some of my family was like on the other side of the table where they took up all the seats that were facing the exit. And like, I was like, oh my fucking God. And I was just like, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. But I found myself the entire thing just always like turning around and like couldn't focus on the conversation because I was way too worried about like looking behind me and seeing the exit. So that's like a bad habit that I took from the military is like just, worrying too much about what's going on around me, rather than just like being in the moment. So that was a bad habit. But a lot of good habits, a lot of bad habits that came out of the military for sure.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, we hope that answered your question, Bobby Burns. Guys, send us some more questions if you ever want to, outside of our Patreon, which you guys should definitely join us in. Patreon subscribers get first dibs on questions and shout outs. Also, all the extra content. We got 3 tiers you can join us with. And we do live streams for the top tiers every month. But if you want to send us a general email question, send it to pcfmpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can send us a DM on our Instagram, PCFM Podcast. With that, we are going to transition to our game.
Yes, sir. And I don't have it in front of me, so that means you must have the game.
Yes, you can tell by my eyebrows moving like this, which nobody can see. I'm very mischievous.
I can't even move my eyebrows that fast. That's pretty impressive. Very Loki, very mischievous.
This one's great. I'm really excited for this one. Chris was kind enough to drop a game in our laps for this episode, but this game is called Real Viking or Fake Viking. I'm going to say a name.
This is going to be so hard. Oh my God. This is going to be so hard.
Maybe not, man. Maybe you have good instincts. You tell me if that person if that is a person that really lived and was a Viking, or if it's a character from pop culture. So real Viking or pop culture figure is what we're going with.
Okay. I'm still thinking this is going to be very challenging because even when I Googled was Ragnar Lothbrok a real person, like some of the names he was associated with was out of control. It was like Jorgen Bone Grinder.
Yeah,
I was like, what?
Ragnar Heart Eater. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. Okay, well, I'm ready, man, whenever you are.
All right, man. There's no warm-up. We're going to jump right in. The first one is, I'll try and say them with the Viking gusto that they deserve. Halfdan the Black.
Halfdan the Black. Oh, man. They can even be like totally fantasy character names. Like, who freaking knows?
We've got some pretty creative writers out there who are good at coming up with Viking-sounding names.
Yeah, it sounds like an orc chieftain. I'm just going to go ahead and say it's a real person.
You are correct. It is a real person. Ooh. Also featured in movies and TV shows. He was the king of Vestfold. He belonged to the house of Yngling and was the father of Harald Fairhair, the first king of unified Norway.
See, this is what I'm saying, man. This is gonna be such a challenging game because fair hair, like that dude. If that dude didn't have amazing locks, that would have been disappointing.
Right. It could be like an ironic name too, like he has no hair and they just call him Fair Hair as a joke.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, cool, man.
Yeah, that was good. You got that one right. Next one.
Okay, nice.
Eric the Red.
Eric the Red, not blue, not green, but red. Eric the Red. I'm gonna say it's a real guy. Actually, no. This is a pop culture character.
Should have went with your instincts. It's a real Viking. Eric Thorvaldsson was a Norse explorer described in medieval and Icelandic saga sources as having founded the first settlement in Greenland. He was an explorer.
Interesting. See, the reason I pulled that was because there is a movie called Eric and the Vikings, I think. So I'm like, is it that Eric? But
or
then
Eric
again,
the
was
Viking.
that
I think there's
Eric
one
the
called
Viking?
Eric the Viking.
Yeah,
It's
Eric
comedy,
the Viking.
actually.
So I was like, was that comedy? And I was like, is that the character of that? So that's why I pulled it. But whatever.
All right, next one. Hagar the Horrible.
Hagar the Horrible. What did he have to do to earn that name? He must have done horrible things. I'm gonna say that's a character.
You are correct. It is a character from the Sunday comics, actually. They don't have Sunday comics. Back when people used to have real newspapers delivered to their homes made of paper, they had the Sunday comics. And that was always my favorite growing up as a kid. But Hagar the Horrible was an old Sunday comics, and it was just a goofy comic where,
really
had barely anything to do. He was a Viking, but that was about as close as it got.
Did he do horrible things in the comics?
No, it was a total lighthearted kids comic. It was
okay.
It was ironic.
Okay.
All right, man, you're doing good. You're 3 for 3 so far. All right, let's go with. This is a complicated one. Hold on. Okay,
sound it out.
Ivor Varensdottir.
Ivor Varensdottir, of course. Yeah, know him. Really good friends. Real person.
You are wrong. It is a fake Viking. This is a character from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which has to do with Vikings. You know, one thing you can tell if it's a boy or a girl, especially in Iceland, these are popular names. But if it's something something's daughter, it's daughter. And if it's something something's son, it's somebody's son. So Varensdottir, Thor's son. You ever heard of Sven Thorson? It's Sven, Thor's son. Son of Thor, yeah. And people like naming their kid, there's a lot of Thor sons and,
I got you. That
Thor's
okay.
daughter,
All
Annie
right.
Thor's daughter is a famous CrossFitter, and she's from Iceland, and she looks like a freaking yoked Icelandic dog.
She looks like a frost giant.
Yeah, she looks like a frost giant. Annie Thor's daughter. You can look her up. But all right, you were wrong in this one, but the next one, hopefully you'll get Nord the Barbarian.
Nord the Barbarian. Is this a fake name?
Correct, it is a fake name.
Okay.
This is a WWE wrestler.
Nice.
wrestler,
Really?
Nord the
His
Viking.
name's Nord?
If you couldn't get much more stereotypical, Nord as in North, Nord the Barbarian.
Oh my God, look at this guy. John Nord.
Oh, his name is John Nord?
I guess he was a real person, though.
He is a real person, but he was not a real Viking.
Not a real Viking, but that was his stage name. So, okay, I'll take that.
Oh, he was kind of back in the day, an 80s
Yeah, he was like WWF.
Oh, okay, WWF wrestler. Okay, John Nord the Viking. I remember him now that I'm looking at it. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, all right, we got 2 more. You're doing pretty good.
All right.
You're actually 4 out of 5. So,
okay.
Next one, Harald Bluetooth.
No, Bluetooth. Harald Bluetooth. That is not a real person. Please don't be a real person.
Unfortunately, it is a real person. It's a real Viking.
No way. Is that where they got Bluetooth from?
I don't think so. His biography states, as king, Harold Bluetooth is not known for many great acts of daring, courage, or warfare. The one thing he is known for is that during his reign, the name Denmark was used for the first time. on the gelling runestones. He was the first to rule all of Denmark, and as such is considered to have brought Denmark together. His legacy includes introducing Christianity to Denmark. Yes. His name, however, will live on in much more modern sense. It was chosen to be the name of a wireless wireless communications protocol now connects most of the devices together. Bluetooth. The designers chose the name specifically because of the unification context of his legacy. Bluetooth was intended to unite all computer devices. The Bluetooth symbol is a combination of the runes for H and B. The little Bluetooth symbol is our Viking runes.
No way. I had no idea. Well, there you go. We learned something every single day.
That's crazy, man. I'm very glad that we learned that. Even though you didn't get it right, I'm still happy. All right, last one. Suin Forkbeard.
Suin Forkbeard. Not knife beard. Not spoon beard.
Not knifey,
but
not
fork
stab
beard.
man. Knifey spoon boy.
It's stab man. I'm going to say this is a fake character.
You are wrong. He was a real character. Suin was Harold Bluetooth's son, and apparently had much more expansionist outlook than his father. One thing he is believed to have done is depose his own father from the throne of Denmark.
Really? So he's like, Bluetooth, you're not cutting it. It's time for Forkbeard to take over.
You're not. I don't want to be unified with your stupid name. I'm going to have my own awesome name like Forkbeard.
Man, I told you this was going to be a hard game, man. These names are out of control.
Oh, man. No, it's awesome. It's hard because they have names like Forkbeard and Bluetooth, which we think sound ridiculous. We want to, but like they actually like, it's almost like their names were, descriptors, right? Almost like my last name, Wright, was actually originally intended to be your profession, like a wheelwright or a cartwright. Like Ivar the Boneless from the Vikings series, like he was crippled, so he was the Boneless, So they're maybe not very original. I don't know. Maybe they're just like went with what worked at the time. So
I guess so. Common sense is king back then, huh?
Yep. That's it. That's it for the game, man.
Okay, yeah, man. I mean, even though I did very poorly, that was very fun. And most importantly, extremely educational. Now we know where Bluetooth comes from.
That's right.
Well, that was awesome. Thanks for that game. Shout out to Chris for putting together yet another awesome game. Folks, we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you played along. More importantly, thank you for being part of the Patreon. If you made it to the end here, you are subscribed. We appreciate you. We appreciate everybody. And that's all we got for this episode. You want to say it, Izzy?
Cue music!
Skull!
What's going on, everybody? You just listened to the free version of the PCFM podcast. If you want full-length versions of podcast episodes, plus much, much more, head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/PCFM podcast.
That is right, Israel. If you want access to this full episode, you have to subscribe to the Fuzzy Private tier, which is our cheapest tier on Patreon at $5 a month. But if you are interested in a little bit more, we also have the Salty Sergeant tier at $8 a month and the Lifer tier at $12 a month. So, hopefully, we will see you there, PCFM family. Cue music.
Hello, Saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.